Alaman.
Good morning, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Oh, we got an echo. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you may be. This is the Overnight. I am DM Foss, and tonight we've got DJ Play Nice. How you doing, DJ?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Glad to be here, man. Glad to be here.
And G Webs, how you doing? If you're all right, I think he's having technical difficulties. Hopefully he'll be back shortly. And thank you, Wesley. Let me get my banner going here. Let me get the right one. There we go. At the bottom of the screen, there is an email and a link. A couple of different ways. You can send in comment suggestions or pictures within reason. untacticalfoss@gmail.com. And in the description, there's a link for the overnight server or overnight gilded server. It's a place to hang out, chit chat, share pictures, memes, or whatever. You can always get a hold of me there, or most of the people that come on the chat, you can get a hold of them too. And if you watch this in replay, leave a comment. Anything we talk about, agree with, disagree with, let me know. I always read the comments, and they are always appreciated. All right, let me get back to my comments. There we go. Let's take a quick look to see who was out there. DJ Play Nice was out there first. Wesley Foster, Bubba Triclops Ballistics, G23, Hillbilly Up, Sergeant Joe Smith, But though unapologetically armed. Nice to see you. And Misha, and I think that's everybody that said something. If you're out there and listening but haven't said anything, just say hi. Let me know you're out there. And Hillbilly, if you're still out there and awake, I sent you an email. So, all right. So tonight I was going to talk about Garage Guy 879's out there. There are Guns and Barbecue. Good evening. There are 2 comment periods going on right now for the ATF, and there's links to both of those in the description, so you can leave comments. And I meant to. There we go. You're back. Why don't you say something? Make sure everything's working all right. If you're talking, I can't hear you.
Okay, now it's good.
There you go. Yeah, that's good.
Okay, I had to restart. I'm using Gizzard Gary's modem that he sent me. Do I sound like Gizzard?
No, I think you're. Since you're a little closer to me, so that maybe the interweb electronic transmission is different. So you sound more like Arizona than Kansas. But so right now there's 2 comment periods going on. One is for the rule change, where the ATF wants to define who needs an FFL because they're selling guns for profit. And it would seem like they're trying to require more people to get FFLs. So if you're selling your guns, that if you sell too many of your guns or sell them for a profit, they're saying that you need an FFL because you fall under their regulations. Excuse me. DJ, can you do me a favor?
Sure.
I meant to have the links ready. Can you grab a link for one of those for the comment period so we can go in and then look at, maybe show the process? Would that be possible?
Yeah, it's out there in the text chat.
Oh, okay.
So I think you're being too generous. You're making it sound like they actually have an agenda to do something with this. This is really just an action that they can take, not a deliberate one. It's just it's something that they can do to suggest that, well, whatever, like many things, that guns are bad or that gun ownership is bad or that somehow transferring a gun is bad. Like they're creating a scenario that they're trying to fix when no one, there's no necessity for that, especially for the sales thing. That's something that hasn't been an issue, and it's the only thing that they have to create a situation. It's the only thing they have they're within their power. So it's it's a deliberate act. It's not a result or a reaction.
No, that is what I believe. I believe they're targeting the basically private sales. But so let me share there we go. At the Federal Registry, it's really easy to do. And like I said, there's links for both of these. So you've got a space for your comment, and you can just put you oppose. And I usually will put the which regulation. So here it's ATF 2023 triple lot 2, triple lot 1. I'll add that in the comment, but you can just say, I oppose this. Then they ask for an email, and you can put if you're an individual, if you're doing the comment as part of an organization, and you can also do it anonymously. And then agree to that you understand the statement above and submit it. That's all you have to do. And there's a big push by the anti-gunners on, I don't know if it's on this one or if it's on the other one or if it's on both of them, but they've got a big push going on and to make it look like it's lopsided in favor of more regulation. So I believe it behooves us to make your voice heard and doing the comment.
I think it's more ominous than that because, I mean, I'm not spending a lot of time paying attention to the other side or anything, but when you look over there, they're not doing the same old thing over and over anymore. They are doing different stuff over there. So the fact that they got 39,000 isn't one person in a room doing something 39,000 times. They've reached a bunch of people the same way we're attempting to do, or you're attempting to do with, awareness of this. On our side, we're trying to get people to know, hey, this is an opportunity for us to exercise one facet of our civic, if you want to call it responsibility or opportunity or whatever you want to call it, or obligation. And, they're successfully doing that on their side. So, they either have something like GOA, which is like a form where you just go click it and it happens, but that's still a person that instigates it. So I think the bigger issue here, or at least a large issue here that doesn't get play because everybody just urges people to comment, the other side using this as an opportunity to build enthusiasm and build tradition and what's the word, like people who are on the other side who are going to this comment period and then are going to be the old knowledgeable ones for the next comment period and the one after that. If they start thinking of comment periods as something to empower their side, it's not good news for our side. Yeah. We typically have to urge people to even participate. They usually ignore it. If they start to champion them and start to own these things, who on our side rises to the challenge? Our side hides and cowers. They don't do stuff, and then when they are challenged, they start complaining and they don't do anything. They don't get all riled up and comment. We barely had a bunch of people the last time with those GOA forms. We were doing the same thing they're doing this time. They learned from us, or they figured out to buy that same service, where we had a bunch of people who did the call to action to the GOA. What's going on their side? Something's happening on their side. That's, I guess, what summary of what I'm saying. It's not one person clicking that thing 39,000 times.
And there's a significantly greater impetus for the ATF to respond and actually put out comment periods for things in this political climate that are not favorable for firearms. And to offer the audience a little bit of context, this proposal comes in underneath the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, and that's from June of last year. And this is yet another example of how, if you title a piece of legislation to something like that, who can offer an opposing view just based on the title. Now, after you identify those things that are held within it, there's plenty there. But from the scratch take, why wouldn't everybody want a safer community? So misnomers are used. It's a little bit of a dodge. Well, it's more than just a little bit of a dodge. It's a complete and total dodge to what some of those things are. Now, whether or not there are active agendas out there that are making these things happen, I can't point a finger to any specific one, but instead would reflect on, again, that the current political climate allows these things to exist in greater number.
it encourages them. But there's definitely people that incited this, that created it, but it isn't. It isn't the Republicans didn't vote for that because they were fooled by the name. They voted for it because public opinion is shifting. I don't know if the feed was working yesterday during Paige's conversation, or Paige Rue from Arizona. And she was talking yesterday about how to work with the youths. And instead of being the typical, we should work with the youths, she actually talked about the perception or the focus of the different generations. Greatest generation, whatever how our parents are, the baby boomers, I couldn't think of it, and then us, and then the millennials, and now the Z's and stuff, and then talking about actual poll numbers where we think everybody's coming to where we are, but in reality the world is shifting. Nobody's ever going to go back to where we were. We're not to where our grandparents were. Certainly we're not where our parents were. Probably our kids aren't going, they're aware of where we are, but our grandkids aren't interested in going here anymore. So the pleas and the things, the words that we use to attract the people to our side, they're not interested in that. They're interested in things that they've been. For example, she used the fact that they grew up their entire lives doing shooter drills. So all they hear about is shooter drills, active shooter drills. They don't think a shooter is a kind word for a sport, or a nothing word for a sport, and we think that's the way it is. So that's something that I think we as a whole, and it's tough because I do the same thing. We're all doing this, but we think of it as we got what's up, and all we got to do is tell everybody else our deal. They don't want to hear our deal. They don't have any interest in it, and they don't have to. So we either come up with the thing that works to let them know why it's in their best interest, and it ain't going to be the messaging that worked for our grandparents or us. So I think that's part of this, and this is an indication that, or it could be an indication. I can't say it is, because it could be an indication that their side is messaging something. I could be wrong. It could be two people putting 15,000 comments up. It could be just a scam on the other side. But I like to think, worst case scenario, their messaging is working with their new audience. That's what we should be worried about. But I'll shut up.
That's one thing that kind of with the Gen Z, that for years you would hear people say, "Oh, Gen Z is more conservative. It's a more conservative than the previous generation," which isn't exactly true, because it's not 1950s conservatism. Their worldview is different. So like coming up to elections and stuff like that, you would just hear people say, "Oh, well, it's going to go this way because Gen Z is more conservative." Well, no, it's not. They're not looking at the world the same way that you are. Their generation, probably every generation is like that, where their worldview is a little bit different. So it's not your conception of what conservatism is. But that's a little bit of a side note.
Well, I think that's what I was trying to say too, though. I think that's we're saying the same thing, right? Like they're going to do Republican their way, right?
Yeah. And I do. I have always believed that the anti-gunners are better at the propaganda. They're
I think they're the only one engaged in it. I don't know if they're better. I think we could be really good. Did Paige's thing come through? Was anybody watching that yesterday?
I didn't see it.
She did. Nor
did I.
You know who I'm talking about, though?
No,
She's
sir.
a girl who grew up in a gun shop and a shooting range. Her dad owns a shooting range, and then later on he owned two of them. So she grew up literally, at her feet of her dad. At a gun range, shooting guns and stuff.
I've heard you talk about her before.
Yeah, she's got a pretty good angle on it, and she works for, I'm not going to remember, some kind of Liberty Youth type of thing. That's, maybe I should know what it is, but it's some kind of Liberty Youth group, and she's like the gun person of that group. So she brought some really interesting perspective, sort of what you were just saying about the generations and what motivated them. We didn't have World War One or two. We're pretty much set and pretty knowing that there wasn't going to be another World War One or two. And we were a little concerned about a nuclear war, but not all that worried about a nuclear war, really. And, that's just like you're saying, there's differences in generations. And this new generation, whether we believe it or not, they're scared shitless of guns. And that's where, just saying, hey, like what Tony's doing or something is pretty much, what's been working. But how do you do that on scale? How do you work with people who have no interest? So a lot of I'm going in a tangent here, but a lot of the solutions are like, oh, take them to the range. Like, yeah, good luck trying to do that in mass. There's got to be other things we can do.
There is, and GWebs, you mentioned. Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned propaganda and its effect on modern thought. That's a modern concept, although it's existed previously. It's really kind of the way it's come in to be today. Just a 20th century invention, especially the political version of it when it comes to democracies. I mean, outside of the ancient world, where there were, not only fewer people but fewer systems of rule, it just wasn't a thing. And so now, being able to take the lessons from 20th century propaganda, how to get those messages out, the key words to use, how to create words that create division, sort of thing, is almost a damn science now. So I think that the modern generation, whichever one
you can watch videos on how it's literally a science.
Yeah, and so, with the ability to take all of those things in a digest form, watch it as you suggest, a YouTube video kind of thing, you can figure out how to engineer a movement in minutes. It's really nuts. And especially with the rate of the dispersion of information, the global nature of that, overnight stuff can happen. I was in a chat earlier this evening where a mention was made yet again of a musical performer who in a matter of days had millions and millions of views on a song that had some political connotations in it. And so that sort of thing, use of mass media also is a huge assistance. It's not books. It's not speaking in the town square. It's not even a newscast anymore. It's a 24/7 news cycle.
Pacifist Production is out there, and M. Gabriel's out there. Hillbilly up. How you doing tonight?
Hey, fellas. How y'all doing this evening?
I always mean to send you a link when I see you out there, and once I get talking, I tend to forget about everything else that was in my head. So, anytime you want to jump in, let me know. I'll send you a link. Or even better, if you join the overnight Gilded server, there's a link in there for every chat, so you can just come in when you want.
Oh, nice. Yeah, man, I appreciate you. Yeah, sometimes I'm fixing to go to bed around this time, but yeah, I appreciate the invite and everything. And we was over on after my show doing a little visiting anyhow, and so anyway, I figured get in and holler with you guys for a little bit.
And Night Strike, how you doing?
You left the back door open again.
Yeah, the doggy door is always open for you.
Oh, yeah. Thanks. I'll let Baron know so he can, board it up.
You can hear Night Strike?
Yes.
You can hear me.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm not being infringed. It's but I have the subtext on StreamYard now. So there you
go. So Night Strike, say something. See if G-Webs can hear you.
I heard him say something.
Oh, okay, good.
Can you hear me? Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2.
Larry Knopf and 2 Live Moo are out there.
Who knows about baseball cards?
I own
What about
some, but I don't.
I own a lot of them.
When you buy the things to put them in, I believe they're called sleeves. How much are they for 200? What's
the penny
price?
sleeves?
I don't know.
The real thin ones or the
good ones.
The pages of the sleeves
No.
or the actual
Individuals?
The holders, the plastic like lucite holders.
Yes.
Oh,
Not
okay.
the fancy ones that you screw them into, but the ones that are nice that you just slide it into, like what Clover uses.
Pennies a piece.
How much would 200 of these cost?
Is that rigid then? Because we're having a hard time getting.
That's in
that looks like
between. That's not the soft
okay.
ones, but it's
No,
it's
it
a little
isn't
hard.
soft at all. There's a layer cut here to be the.
Oh, those are the hard sleeves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how much?
It's been a while since I bought them. I've got a bunch, but I bought them, like 15 years ago.
Ballpark figure.
No. When they're singly, the last time I saw them, they were a quarter a piece. But I have no idea in a big stack like that.
I don't think you guys know about baseball cards.
Well, it's been a while.
I haven't bought any of those sleeves in a long time, so don't ask.
Okay, sorry about
Yeah,
that.
about 20 years.
Telos is out there. Good evening.
30 for me. So
Sergeant Joe Smith is saying $20 for 100. About.
Okay, thanks. That's all I need to know. Appreciate it.
So not to get too far off topic here. If Night Strike or Hillbilly have anything to add as we go along, just go ahead and add in whenever you want. Excuse me. Have a good night.
Since we're talking comment periods, how many comment? Oh, is Unapologetically Armed out there?
Yeah, she's heading to bed.
Is she still in Arizona, or is she back? She was at the Gun Rights Policy Conference. How many people here met Unapologetically Armed? Oh, me and Bit. How many? Since we're talking comment periods, how many comment periods have you been aware of, paying attention to? You don't have to answer, but think to yourself, and then, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just trying to illuminate or illustrate the point that these things have been going on for a long time. And in my experience, I always talk about this. There's phases and cycles. I know Night Strike's been around for a bunch of them. DJ's been around for at least a few. But y'all can just, have to answer and tell everybody. I'm just saying, think about this. These things come and go. Are we taking them for granted? Are we ignoring them? Are we, you know what I mean? I don't want to say we're always losing, because we haven't always lost at them, but it's not like we won because we got together and got our shit together and like really worked together. We've got close, and these are opportunities to do that. I always say I'll quit ranting, but that was my question for anybody. You don't have to answer, but just to ask you, think to yourself, like, how often do I pay attention to these, and is it really worth rallying the troops, and who does that? Is that somebody else's job, or is that all of our jobs?
Well, I think it's like one of those things that lays hidden for most people, for most firearms folks. If it's not brought to their attention, it's and demonstrably, then they're just not going to know. So, spreading the word, just like friend to friend kind of thing, shows like this. Barbecue has hosted shows. Others have hosted shows where here's the comment period. We're going to talk about it again. Please, here's the links. Go out and take care of this. Get this done. Participate in your government. But that's just, really the highest degree of activity is just in these circles, in this smaller percentage. Now, I don't think that the participation is all that much stronger or pervasive for anybody that we would consider to be anti. But the way that they do rally the troops, to use your term, is apparently a lot more effective. Now, I know we've talked in the past also about the techniques, the strategies that they use, and how some of those are relatively questionable sort of deal. But in the end analysis, if the votes aren't there, if the voices aren't there, then it's going to go the way of those who show up for that day. And in this case, it's open for a while. The links are out there, but Foss, I'm going to do a little bit offer a little bit of information from the ATF's website itself. This was released on the 8th of this month. The comment period is open from the 9th of September. We're past it until December 7th. That's 12/7/23. The links are out there. I also dropped the ATF link so that you can grab the PDF if you want to read every last bit of it. And Foss, if there is time, I do have it open. It would take me maybe 2 minutes to read what the purpose is as stated by the ATF for this comment period. Just to let you know.
Did you hear the report the other day about one of the comment periods the ATF did hold, and that most of the comments were cut and paste from an anti-gun group?
Oh, yeah. definitely heard about that. Talked it all the way through, man. But that's, and GWebs has referred to that when I think he said GOA, and maybe the other side has learned how to use that effectively. They have used that as more effectively than I'll say soft quotes our side. Those numbers that showed up like that, I mean, they're still registered. It's still that they are registering their opinions. How those things get to the ATF so that people can review them, the course by which they take to arrive at that destination is going to be as varied as we are in our personalities. But when we see enclaves like that, be it GOA or be it Moms Against kind of thing, yeah, it's whoever core group is motivated the most on that day to make those comments. And they can, we saw the numbers go up and down. We watched that in the reportage that like Guns Barbecue and others added on the daily. How many have been submitted, reading out examples of them kind of thing. You can lead all of these horses to water, but you can't hitch them together and make them pull, let alone drink. So
when I was looking for the registry page, and I typed into Google the ATF comment period, the only page that came up with the current comment periods I was looking for was either like Moms Demand Action or Everytown. I can't remember which one. And then they had links to get to the page. All the like GOA, FBC, all their links were for the like bump stocks, for the last spat of comment periods. Yeah. Some of that might be, Google filtering what goes here or goes there, but none of them, none of the pro gun. I didn't go specifically to their website, so I don't know if they have it listed, but it doesn't come up on the Google searches.
Another example of the kind of limit. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. While I'm
surprise
backing up here.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that's expected in that regard. The filters that are going to come through like that. We experience it on this side far more than they do, kind of deal. So I'm glad you went and kept digging at it. Yeah. But digging, the fact that we have to dig for those things is like, man, that is not happy making. Night Strike.
I'm looking at the comments out there on the YouTube side, and it's just like Sergeant Joe Smith is saying, you think the ATF is going to listen to our comments?
Yeah,
probably if the comments are detrimental to what they're trying to do, most likely not.
Yeah, did the comment
listen to our comments? Do you speed because the police officer cares, or do you not speed because the police officer cares, or do you not speed because you don't want to hurt somebody?
Well, I'm not saying don't post them anyways. I'm just saying that they probably aren't going to listen.
The comment periods.
Who cares if you're going to listen? I don't care if they don't pastor their bathroom with them. Who cares? You could stack a whole bunch of things that they're not going to do, and it won't matter because it doesn't have any weight. What matters is what we decide to do as a community. What they're trying to do as tacticians is judge and gauge how active and aware we are. So if they can poke somewhere where we don't notice, you think they're going to move on? So it's ridiculous to go, oh, no, we don't have to do something when we're being attacked. It's like, oh, that bite didn't hurt that hard, or it didn't hurt that much. They didn't take that much flesh this time. Come on. No, we are at our own detriment ignoring these things. It's an easy, free way to show our position. It's weak and cowardly to not even try. It's what do you call it when somebody goes, oh yeah, I'm so good at fighting that I don't need to fight? Do you believe that person is good at fighting?
I think that's apathy.
No, it's not apathy. It's lack of courage. It's lack of any what do you call it? Have done it before, and lack of experience. And it's not like cowardice is like you are a coward. It's cowardice because you've never done nothing before and you don't know it could be done.
The comment periods, technically the reason they do them is they are required to for any rule change. And I do go and comment, even like it's more when it happens state for Washington State where I live. I know there is a good chance that they are not going to listen to comments that are opposing what they want to do, the politicians. But I still feel, for me, it's important to comment, make my voice heard, be counted as opposition to what's going on. That's kind of along the lines why I started my channel to begin with, was to do something, get up, say my piece. If somebody hears it and it has an effect, that's what I would ultimately want. If it does or not, I don't know, but I want to make that comment. Go ahead, DJ.
I would just say, right on, man, and I'm glad you're here doing it. There are a few others out there that I can think of that try as hard as they can as well. And there's a discouraging. It's discouraging that these things keep popping up. But when you were speaking, I was thinking of this. A lot of people just do a vote. Now, it might be just during, say the presidential election. Maybe they don't vote in local politics or, whatever. So they're only turning out every 4 years or every 2 years kind of thing. There are ways to participate way beyond just casting your single vote. Comment periods are the kind of thing that's like another vote. So instead of it being a vote for a person, a representative to serve in office, you're voting on how these laws are formed. How these comment periods affect law is incredibly important, and it allows you yet another avenue to participate in your own governance. That, like, it couldn't be, some of these things couldn't be more important, and some of them are far more important than that individual vote that you cast for some elected official. This is everybody, and it's cross politics, it's cross all parties that this happens.
Yeah, I'd like to say something. You don't mind?
No, go ahead.
I agree with you. The way I look at it is, if nobody says anything, then they can say, well, we didn't know. But if they have an opposition to their deal, even though they're not wanting to hear it, they're not wanting to count it, if there's enough of it that at some point it's got to be recognized. They can't just say, well, we didn't know, we thought everybody was fine with whatever, case in point. But, I think it's really important to make your comment and to follow up on some of that stuff. And most usually, not always, but sometimes, the one who yells the loudest and's got the most, push one direction, they have to be heard at some point, more than if you don't do anything at all.
Well, you're right that they can't go, oh, all gun owners want this, or 80% of gun owners want this. If every gun owner were to use the comment period, and they're like, well, we broke the comment period trying to do whatever Yahoo we were trying to do. So yeah, it would be really difficult for them to say that everybody's on their side when every vote went against them.
Well, and to Sergeant Joe Smith's comment, do we think that the ATF is going to listen to those comments? I mean, the scratch take on it is no, because it isn't as if they are going to consume every one of those things and find like the shining example of something to use. I don't know, and I don't think anybody else has been able to, to crack the code for how it is that these are processed when it comes to the individual, not just the pro-con kind of thing, not just that it's registering that way, but individual expressions within them. It's not as if, to try to speak directly and just from my own position to Sergeant Joe, I do not believe that they're going to be reading through something and say, oh, wow, this guy stated it so eloquently. We are completely fucked in what we just thought. We're going to change course on this.
Yeah, the ATF doesn't do it. Yeah, we have a whole section of government that does these. That's what it is. It's in the register.gov. So it's a third party that's doing this. The ATF isn't taking the comment period and reading the cards and telling us which ones. This is a third section of government that, it's not really the checks and balances, but it's, so that we don't have the same people asking the questions, voting or reading the votes. So this is the register.gov. They're going to do the results, and they do the results, and they filter out the stuff. And then the ATF does an anal analysis of it. And then there's this dude that I don't remember. Remember that one guy from California who came and went. I forget his name now, but that guy, whenever that guy was around, there was that one guy popped up, probably from
Walt?
California. No, but some guy from around him popped up and did all that data analysis.
Oh yeah.
Of the comment periods. Remember, so that will happen. So there'll be independent research lawyers and researchers. John Lott isn't going to do it, but people like him, right? That caliber of person, a scholar, researcher, they'll have access to it. And if it sits with, right, last time I looked, it was 39,000 for the antis and 0 for us, essentially. I don't know what the numbers are now. It's been about 7 days since I looked at it, I think. But if it comes out one way or the other, you don't think they're going to run around with a badge like, hey, look at nobody, gun owners didn't give a shit. What happens usually is they get a black eye when they put these things up. But anyway, whenever that analysis comes through from the whatever it is, register.gov, whoever runs that, like whoever the government auditors are or whatever, then the ATF takes that data, looks at it, and yeah, they definitely, there's what you said, they'll go, oh, well, looks like everybody said 80% or not 80%, or look, they said everybody, or this wasn't the definition. Now, that being said, they're not like, hey, we give a shit. They are doing what the rules told them to do. They're just reading their instructions, right? Those instructions are written, like all bureaucracy, to be super redundant and cross-reference. So every time they want to change some law, if you ever I've literally read them, so it's not like I'm some lawyer expert. I just read the last 2 or 3 live so that people that didn't have the time to read them could listen to it. And I just happen to have to read the whole freaking things, right? So if you actually read them, there's just a whole bunch of stuff in there. Like, here's what we got to do. We got to see if it's an environmental issue. Here's what we got to do. We got to see if it affects fish. Here's what we got to do. We got to see if it affects money. So somewhere in there, they have all these things that they got to do. The checks, check all these boxes before it can finish. And one of those is ask the people who it's going to affect, and then listen to the registrar's analysis of it, and then react. So they don't even get a choice. So does the ATF want to do this? They probably don't. Some people at the ATF are like, yay. And other people are like, this is stupid. I didn't join on to do this. Right. So that's maybe part of this move. Hey, let's get rid of all the ATF agents that would be against this by pushing this through, make them quit. I don't know. It's a whole nother level. But basically, some of this is the ATF's hands are tied, and we can ignore this, or we can learn from like the last, I've been paying attention to this since 2005. So that's the M855. That's the import ban on something else. And then it was something that we lost. And then it was the bump stocks. And then it was the bump stocks. And then it was the last 2. And now it's these 2.
Actually, first it was 7 and 6. Then it was the M855.
Sorry, I mixed those 2 up. So there's been quite a few that I've been paying attention to. So this is just the procedure that the government has to go through. And, if it was like putting studs on snow tires, nobody would care. And the thing would go through with 100 comments, and the comments would be from snow tire manufacturers. And that's what they'd listen to. Hey, we had 600 snow tire manufacturers say this is stupid, right? So when it happens with 39,000, that's when the accountants have to get in there, whoever they're called, and go in and research and say, okay, well, this many of them were garbage. This many of them were a form letter from this organization. And that holds weight. So again, we're either going to get a black eye from this, or we're going to get a strong bicep from this. Like, we're either going to exercise with this, or we're going to take abuse from this. And people that take abuse don't tend to stand up anymore. They don't stand up and fight back stronger. They limp away and cry and make excuses and hide the next time there's an altercation. And I only say that because I've been through like 7 of these, and it's not like we get stronger and stronger every time. And the national level organizations make their money here. Why don't they just make their money here? They make their money on lawsuits. They could be making their money here. Did you hear anybody talk about this at GRPC? I think it was brought up as like, oh yeah, and then also the comment periods, but nobody's like whole thing was the comment periods that I'm aware of.
Overall, just as kind of a blanket statement, when I talk about this stuff, and this is to everybody, whether you agree or disagree, I can't make you care, but my goal is to try and make you understand why you should care. The other comment period,
I don't care if you care, as long as you know that there's something that you're not caring about intentionally. if you don't know about something, I guess you could say it's not your fault. But if you're going to decide to watch everybody else fight and you're just going to watch, you should know that they're doing that. Acknowledge that.
The other comment period is for the storage rule, where you would have to report. And I don't remember exactly what you have to report.
So it's really redundant. I read the whole thing. It's the fire department, right, is in charge of explosives in an area. They're just saying that where it used to be every 4 years, now it's every year. So that's really all it says. So essentially, for the certain people that have to do this, which is probably like fireworks manufacturers and something, I don't know. So for certain people who used to have to do it every 4 years, now they have to do it every year. And essentially, it's just tell the fire department what you got and where it is, and so that they can fight the fire effectively if it starts exploding or whatever. But it's just, again, it's a first form and it's a procedure, and it's something they're going to change a rule, and because of it, now, if they did that on a Tuesday, would anybody care? Like explosive people, maybe, but does anybody really care? No. Now, would a bunch of people care because they don't like the ATF doing anything? Sure. But are they doing this alongside this other one to distract from the other one? Hell yeah. Are they doing everything else they've been doing in the news? Did New Mexico do her thing because of no reason? She could have done it on a Wednesday. No, she decided to do it on the freaking, I shouldn't say it on Wednesday. She could have done this in June. She could have done this in October. She could have done this for an election season. No, she did it in the middle of nowhere as the comment periods are going up. And in the time when all of a sudden the people who are getting paid by the Republican backed Safer Communities garbage, that $16 billion that's being paid for, those are the people who are flooding it with comments right now. And everybody else is chasing the bouncing ball. Oh, look at what the New Mexico did on cue. I don't know. Maybe it's not all intentional. Maybe there's no big game being played, and everybody this is all just random, happening at random time.
Ozzy Osbourne's out there, and Ozzy, I sent your stuff out today. Sorry, it took me all week to get it out there, but it should be there Tuesday-ish, I think, is what the tracking said.
That's ridiculous.
So those are the two. If you go to the registry and you look up ATF, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but comment period stuff for the ATF, but most of it's mainly FFL stuff, like use a blue pen, where you can't use a blue pen, you have to use a black pen. Rule, administrative stuff like that. But so there's links, so you can leave your comment. If you leave a comment, be polite and to the point. If you swear, they'll throw them out, and so they don't get counted. The other story I had, this actually happened June, I believe, the end of June, but the Delaware Attorney General asked their Supreme Court, state Supreme Court, to enforce, to subpoena a Cabelas. There's a Cabelas in Delaware. I forget what city it's in, but they had 500,000 rounds of ammunition stolen over the period of a year. And I learned about this I watched a video by God, Guns, and Family, and there's a link for that video, so you can go back and see what he said exactly. But I vehemently opposed his stance on the whole thing. He was saying, good, they should be prosecuted because of the thefts, and then there was kind of a larger overarching argument within this, but he doesn't like that all the thefts were going on, so they should be prosecuted because they let the thefts go on, and that ammunition is arms, And to me, it all kind of smacked of the safe storage laws, where if your gun is stolen, you can be prosecuted because a criminal stole your gun. And I thought it was just it is the wrong way to approach that. If they, for that amount of ammunition, it probably is an inside job. But do you prosecute Cabelas because their stuff was stolen? And then on top of that, do you treat ammunition like it's a firearm and should be regulated? If Cabelas has a bad business practice that loses them money, that's not the state's
yeah, but if someone steals a car, is that car owner responsible if that same thief goes and runs over 20 people with said car?
Well, that's
I mean, is he responsible for the thief going and choosing to steal his car, choosing to go and hurt those people? And should their family sue or go after the thief, or they should go after the owner of that car?
I think you're begging the question. I mean, there is an obvious answer to that. It's a big capital N followed by a capital O. Like, no. But
I was getting there.
But what's happening?
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead then.
No. Keep going.
Well, just that. But there are pieces of legislation that allow those things to exist, and so being able to work through the FTC and other things, it's a blind spot. And, the antis are going to find any seam that they can exploit. And whether or not there's an overarching idea that this is how we're going to defeat commerce in firearms and in ammunition, I'm not sure. But will the cumulative effect of those things come into view? I think they already have. Those are the angles that they're working. And I'm sorry to have interrupted. Go ahead, Nice Strike.
Actually, there's an even larger trend that you're not even getting at, and it keeps happening, and no one ever points it out. You know what that is? Whenever someone breaks the law, whether it's theft, threat, or any other crime, the antis don't ever want to go after the person that committed the crime. Hell, they don't even want to throw them in jail. They would rather go after the guns instead. Have you noticed that? They're more focused on taking stuff away from people than actually enforcing the law on the books.
Well,
if that observation changed anything, that would have changed stuff a long time ago. They're not going to say, our policy. Well, so then I'm saying, that's just a broken record. We know it, but it's obvious if they're never going to go, our policies are at fault here.
My personal opinion is the reason that happens is if somebody steals from you, it's not a threat to the state. But if you are well armed and can protect yourself from the state, you become a threat to the state. So that's why they don't view the thefts the same way. But that's my personal opinion.
Well, I think it's people that have the hive mindset and people that have the individual. I don't know what the two represents, but like the person that wants to be the ant, and they think that the hive is important, and anything that disrupts the anthill, I guess, or the collective critter needs to have the city. It needs the skyscraper. It needs all the other workers to do all their things so that they can do the one thing they do every single time. And then there's the other side of it, where the thing that, wants to do as much as it can as is, and then it interacts as necessary and as interested with others. And that's that two mindsets, or at least mindsets that I'm trying to describe there. So if and those people love the state, and the other people are like, I'll tolerate the state to a point, right? And those are different views. And if you think that they're out to get you, they're just scared shitless and they don't have nothing else to do. They're going to cling to the thing that supports them and feeds them and whatever. So you can scold somebody for being an idiot, or you can enlighten them. So that's just, I think that's the two sides. I think that there's that mind, the hive mindset, the let's get together and be a communist collective, and people that like to work hard can work hard. And those of us that like to fart around and do art can fart around and do art. And they think that's how it is in communism. So I think that's what they're dreaming towards. And anything like you're saying that hurts the state there, yeah, they're going to go after. But I don't think it's worship of the state. I think it's more of a, they are not able. You know, I don't know what it's like to not, I mean, like to call somebody to change your car tire. Does that even compute? Like, I know that people do that. I know like a kid would do that, or like a really old person might do that. But there's like healthy, regular people that drive around and can't change their car tire and don't, you know, ever want to learn how. They just want to know what the phone number is to have it done, and then complain that it didn't happen fast enough. I just, you know, that person's, they're allowed to live. They're allowed to have the rights, right? They're allowed to be free. We got to be able to talk to that person. I'm assuming most of the people I'm talking to know how to change their own tire and are going to do everything out of their possible not to have somebody else change their own tire for them, right? Because it's not, you know, it's just, you know what I'm saying? I think I'm repeating myself now.
No, I like a lot of, sorry, go ahead, Foss.
I was just going to say, Wesley Foster said, sounds like they lost a pallet. It could have been a clerical error. But it's not Delaware's business whether they lost a pallet or not. It's kind of my point. And I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm just saying that, you know, that is a possibility, but the whole issue is I'm not attacking God's guns and family. It's just it's a large channel, and I thought his take was completely wrong. So, you know, it kind of got me thinking about the issue. But yeah, so the state attorney general, I don't see any reason why they should be involved in them, other than if you read the statements from the attorney general, you know, it talks about it being ammunition being sold to drug dealers and gang members and stuff like that, which you know, to me is kind of a red herring. Sorry, go ahead, DJ.
No, I'll key off of your red herring. And it was also a shotgun club and a pistol, you know, organized. Like the stuff could have gone anywhere. What it really sounds like to me is it's an individual or a small group who found a way to, yet again, I used this before, exploit a scene. And it's more than a pallet. That many rounds, that's like 7 pallets. Like, that's a lot. That's not just at once. 500,000 rounds?
Yeah, 500,000 is what they're.
Of one.
That's ridiculous.
I don't think it said.
And so, because it's that amount in the pre-chat, like I was saying to you, boss, it's like nobody just backed a truck up, you know, a U-Haul, and cleaned out, like pulled all the shelves out of the place at once. That's an overtime, I've got to guess. I don't know the specific details, but 500,000 rounds is not, if there's not some small foreign government who got a hold of Cabelas, and, you know, some guy who works at Cabelas on the overnight to steal a bunch of ammunition, like it would be more interesting for them to, instead of pursuing it in this way, to pursue where those rounds went. Because, and I don't know why was there any indication, Foss, of what the corporation's response was to this?
I didn't see anything. There's not a lot out there about it. I haven't, okay. I won't say I didn't do a deep dive into it, but everything that I saw was back from June, the end of June, beginning of July.
Okay. And there's also the potential for there to be clerical errors in there. We could have a 0 that's out of place. You know, I don't know what their policy is, if they do hard counts every day or if they're just relying on inventory numbers from their point of sale systems kind of thing. There's all kinds of ways this stuff could have gone out. And I would be interested to know what the corporation has to say about it. Go ahead.
Sergeant Joe Smith is asking, was it one store or several stores? In the story, it said one store, one specific store in Delaware. And again, that's
just, to me, it just smacks of a bad actor, one bad actor with a team kind of thing.
And if if Cabelas went to the state and said, "Hey, we've got this theft, help us," that would be different than if the state said, "Hey, you had this theft. We want to know why you had this theft."
So
Indeed.
5.56,
100,000 rounds on one pallet, 9mm, 200,000 rounds on one pallet. FYI.
Oh,
Okay.
so okay.
So 500,000 rounds would be 2 pallets and a half of 9mm, the garbage caliber, loose on the streets, or 5 pallets of 5.56, which could solve the world's problems. That would have been enough rounds for all of World War II.
See, and again, I'm sorry to be like a kind of broken recording on this, but I can't imagine that that's not just 5 boxes at a time, 10 boxes at a time. If you have a whole pallet that disappeared overnight, kind of thing, if it is indeed one location and not the distribution house for them, kind of thing, that's immediately noticeable. Like there are shelves that go dry because of that. Someone's got questions within the business itself. Why didn't we get this? And whoever it is that's providing the answers, I'll get back to you later. Those are the people to investigate. And Foss, you're absolutely right. The state has no business trying to figure out the loss prevention, and statistics for individual businesses. That's ridiculous. And I agree. If they had sought the help of law enforcement agencies, then that would make it. That's where it makes sense. This one doesn't. And so I can see why things like this would spur people to say, oh, there's a weird agenda going on here. And the fact that the other side, whichever side that is, gets to use this as an example, it doesn't end up being something that people understand. It's just a further vilification of firearms, and in this case, the ammunition that goes through them. I don't like this at all.
Well, and that's kind of wrapped in the whole conversation that he was having was about all the theft that goes on, retail theft, where you get a group that comes in, steals stuff, and then nobody touches them.
Well,
so he thought he wants something to be done. And again, this to me, I instantly thought of the where the politicians say basically know that the anti-gun laws aren't going to do anything, but you have to do something. And he's calling for the state to do something.
So like Sergeant Joe Smith is saying 22, best I can find, because 22 is packaged differently, right? There's different types of 22 packaging. So if you go with federal red box, according to the internet, 550 count boxes, which have a dimension, and you put 16 boxes deep by 11 boxes wide by 9 boxes high, that would be 1,500 boxes, which would be, anybody want to guess how many rounds of 22 is on a pallet in that size box?
No.
Anyone?
That'd be a lot.
Yeah.
Well, 100,000
I'm with Foss.
for 5.56, 200,000 for 9mm. What do you think for 22, according to the internet?
650K.
Higher, lower? Anyone?
We'll go with the 500,000.
So 871,000 rounds with some change. 871. So if that was packaged in just, I don't know, some other kind of configuration, that was bulk pack, solid in a box. You can get 22 that's in those yellow things still, right? Like Hornets or whatever, Stingers and shit like that are, barely like they're in egg crates, they're all like fancy. If you've got a pallet of them, I bet it'd be more like 500,000 because of all the air you'd be stealing. But anyway, that could be one misplaced pallet of 22. So I think that's a good point. And that could just be like, oh, is that what's under that blanket?
Yeah, lost pallets happen. I mean, it should be like a 5x5 pallet.
Yeah, that's
pretty standard for those kind of things.
These were a bunch of marshmallows, and we have a case of 20 or a pallet of 22 underneath of there.
Yeah, and in 6 months they're going through the warehouse doing the hand counts on everything. It's just like, oh, well, look what we found here, kind of thing. So I wonder what the audit system has been so far for that business. They also have to have had some kind of internal investigation going on themselves. They had to have been aware of this. The government just didn't come in and say, hey, we've noticed that. And oh my God, don't get that one started. But yeah, one pallet going missing, that's possible. 2 pallets, even that, it becomes less and less likely depending on what it is. And it would be interesting to find out as part of this analysis what those calibers were, not just to satisfy our kind of, interest in, well, what's the dimensions on that? That's a hell of a lot. Is that a pickup truck or, a panel truck that got away with that kind of stuff? And in businesses, retail is mentioned here. There's a loss percentage that you take into account just because it's a loss percentage. When like an example I can use because it's smaller numbers, when at a CD store that I worked at, new releases, the average ones, we got 20 copies, but we ordered 24. So literally we get 24 because we're expecting to lose 4. I mean, that ratio, 1 in 5, we're gonna lose to somebody pilfering or theft kind of thing. So those percentages, I wonder what they would be for that corporation and how that would impact these numbers as well. Wow.
Guns and Waters out there. Go.
I think there's also another thing when you got bureaucracy, you got people that want to create more, like more reach or more whatever, more power. So it's probably some amount of, let's take, whatever we can add on the pile, like whatever burden we can add.
So I don't know. Again, that was just I happened to come across. I don't think I'm subscribed to his channel. But,
and then Sergeant Joe Smith is saying it could be 2,000 people stealing a box here and there, and like again, depending on how they keep their records, how would they, if they did their records poorly, they wouldn't know the difference between that and a pallet, right? I mean, I don't know, but I'm assuming that you could just be not paying attention, and then all of a sudden, all that theft gets lost on, gets added up by some accountant, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what?" Now there's this discrepancy, and then your just mind reaches to all at once.
No doubt, like if they did like a quarterly or a semi-annual review kind of thing or whatever, and so they just didn't know that the accumulation of these 3 stores that were seeing all this pilferage and theft, and now they have a grand total number kind of thing. I really want to know how the government agencies found out about this.
Or when you drop a box at 22 and it busts, and they just put it, they put it somewhere. Like, how do they know that didn't happen? How do they know that doesn't happen in every gun shop? And that's just not, it's write-off. Is that what they're calling it? Like waste. It's not like
spoilage. Spoilage is what it's called. It doesn't mean that they go bad, but it's the packaging is bad or whatever.
In a restaurant, you would go, this many tomatoes went bad, so that somehow your accountant worries about that. Like, you don't worry about ammo that goes bad necessarily. Like, this box went, I'm gonna throw it off the shelf, or take it off the shelf because it's broken, or somebody opened it, or something. Like, I got to take it off the shelf. You're not allowed to sell ammo as partial boxes. So anyway, like I say, it could just be some procedural thing like that. And then, like you're saying, well, like what I was trying to say, the state sees that as like a thing they can pick at. Oh, wait, we've got an issue we can pick at. We like to pick. We like to add power. Pick.
Talk a little, pick a little.
Pick a little, talk a little. Cheap. Take a little more.
Yeah, and again, that I'm not attacking the channel. It's just that it brought up the issue, and I disagreed with it and thought it was maybe something to talk about.
Well, it creates a lot of questions. I mean, this is cool. This is actually we spent more time on this than we did on the 2 comment period things. So like this is like something that's of interest. But if we can, are we going to be able to double back a little bit on those comment periods during the cast? Just curious.
What's that?
Are we going to be able to double back on the comment periods that we talked about earlier in the show?
No, I think we'll let it lie where it is.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's pretty much what I had. Is there anything anybody else wanted to talk about tonight while I have you here?
What's the poll? And what's the bracket?
There's a bracket.
2 things that I really like about this. Yeah. When's the bracket and what was the poll?
I didn't do a poll this week. And the bracket, I forgot to charge the bracket after last week. So it's on the charger. So it takes a while. I like to use the slow charger. It's better for the batteries.
Trickle.
And one thing I did want to go back, way back when we were talking about the comment period, was Telos. Telos is somebody in Washington, and he does. He'll give testimony at when there's hearings for different bills, and I wanted to applaud him and thank him for doing that, for standing up.
So I went to the morning of AmCon the other day, and that was on Friday while they're setting up Gun Rights Policy Conference. And they set up Gun Rights Policy Conference in like the main whatever conference room of the hotel, and AmCon is in like one of the smaller sub rooms, and they're right across the hall from each other. So when we were out, I don't listen to everything at AmCon because whatever reasons, and I went out in the hallway, and dude was out in the hallway taking a break from setting up Gun Rights Policy Conference, and he's like, hey, blah blah blah, I'm meeting people, I've never been here before. It's just like, you know, being whatever that's called when you just go up and talk to people. So I was like, oh yeah,
friendly.
No, there's like a word for that when you like intentionally are just trying to make friends or whatever. So anyway, he was doing that. He was like, you know, running around trying to meet with people and stuff. So he turns out he's from Washington, and he wanted to be a part of it. So he called the Second Amendment Foundation, and they said, sure, you can come out and help volunteer to. I don't know if you guys have seen my pictures at the beginning of Gun Rights Policy Conference. The room will be set up for usually like 400 people. And they don't know how many people are showing up. So, they set it up for 400 people, and they put essentially a stack of books. There's usually like 5 books, a bunch of pamphlets, some pieces of paper, a folder, a notepad that's blank, so you have, a place to write notes, a pen, sometimes some other stuff, depending on if they're sponsors or something. So essentially not quite swag, but like, Second Amendment useful resources that the Second Amendment Foundation has published. And maybe if there's an author that's speaking, like a copy of their book or something. So it's usually a pretty cool little stack of stuff, but I've got pictures of it. It's just this massive, massive, massive pile of boxes of books, right? So they have these volunteers that spend Friday out there setting that up, essentially setting table, right? Like setting up all the tables first, putting tablecloths or whatever's on them or whatever they do, and then setting out all these books. And then, anyway, so I just thought maybe it'd be interested to hear somebody from Washington came down on their own time to volunteer to help set up Gun Rights Policy Conference.
That's
because
cool.
of how much you're getting whooped. He's like, I'm an old guy and I retired and we're getting our asses whooped. I'm like, hey, yeah, I didn't want to, I bit my tongue and then be like, yeah, welcome to the, welcome, old man. Like, what the fuck? But, okay, well, you're on board now. But, it's like, right on. But yeah, can you imagine somebody way older than me, I think? No, maybe not. I don't know. I'm pretty old now, I guess. But some old guy, just coming around now to 2A, not just guns.
That is cool.
2A matters, and I can do something about it. But I don't know. It's cool. I'm thinking like, again, going back to Paige's thing, this is an old person's sport. This is an old person's thing. And if the young don't give a shit, then guess what? It dies when we all die. So I hear what you're saying. I'm just thinking like, dang, that kind of reinforces that aspect. It is nice to have people on our side, sure, but we're not even reaching all of us. This is somebody who barely figured it out at, let's say, I don't know how old he is, 60 or something when you retire, right? Like, I don't know. I'm just saying, just to ponder. But anyway, the guy also got so into it that he's volunteering and, beginning his experience with Gun Rights Policy Conference.
Yeah, the portion of the cool observation that I made is that somebody would take the time and they would do that, and that they would show up and get it done, kind of thing. And as far as reaching the youth thing, and I don't know if we want to turn down this street, but I'm in my 5th decade. But essentially 40 years, I've had something to do every damn Friday and Saturday night, and it wasn't show up in the desert Southwest to talk about politics and gun rights. It just wasn't. So, the youth, but, I'm not saying every younger person is like that, but if each one of us reflect on our 20s, the distractions and the dedications that we had then, for a lot of us, it wasn't about individual or collective rights so much as it was, we're going to go out, we're going to do this. kind of deal. Those kind of things that you grab on with maturity, that people are usually more liberal when they're young and come to some sort of conservatism, and to some degree once they age out. It happens. It's happened to me. I see it reflected in everybody around me that's my age, and trying to motivate youth. That's something we've talked about. Well, as long as I've been in part of these conversations, it's been part and parcel of how do we keep these things going? How do we perpetuate the work that's being done here, and also the availability of the information? How many people knew about GRPC? How many people knew about AMCON? Like the fact that those things aren't more popular. I don't know what to make them more attractive. I've never been. I've wanted to go since I heard about it, but it sounds dry as hell. It sounds boring as hell. And if somebody walks in the room and they do see more old people than young people, and there's not something really cool in the green room, or there's not a band that's supposed to be scheduled, or there's not some keynote speaker that was, I don't know, in a movie or some damn thing, it's not going to get youth attention. There's just too many other things to do. It doesn't become those things. I feel like, both personally and with others that I speak to, those things don't become important until we are older and we realize that we're taking so many things for granted, and that's just one of them.
That's kind of the way I was.
Oh yeah, that thing.
Tactical Fud's out there, and Sharon Hinchcliffe is out there.
Same with Drive-In Sensible, like all kinds of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's about your choices. Like that's like, that doesn't mean we didn't get advice, and we weren't reached. So everybody, for a bit.
You're breaking up a little bit there.
Asking if I can rant for a bit before I ranting.
You broke up, so I missed most of what you said.
I didn't say anything. I said can I rant, and then I was quiet to hear if I
okay.
Rant. But anyway, I was say that the schoolhouse, that we all that, and we all understood stuff from that. So I think that's an example of how you can get a topic across to a kid effectively.
Yeah, I vibe that completely. And generationally, those things haven't really taken hold. One thing that I hear people talking about a lot, and I think might be one of those ways, is the video game culture. Gaming culture is huge. It started with Gen Xers kind of thing. We're not going to talk about pinball. No, you don't think so? Why?
No, because it's been 7 years that I've been hearing that, and I'm sick of it. Because if there was anything the gamers are so
okay,
and blah blah blah, they would have done it. That's like saying, skateboarders could have done it. Yeah, they could have, but they didn't. The gamers, I think that's a fad. Gamers aren't going to be forever. We're not going to have the future just be corporate wars on video games. Like that's some kind, just like Atari, there's going to be something next, and they're going to be playing that. So I think it was neat.
Now, while they
attempted it, kind of, it was a piece of pop culture, but I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't have any hopes for it anymore.
Well, I'm a little bit more optimistic, but I do understand the points you were making. It's how do we, I was going to angle towards, how do we find access to a large enough group reflective of the example you offered with Schoolhouse Rock? So people don't watch television.
Superstars already. That's the thing. Like, how do you find the next Michael Jackson? You let Michael Jackson happen, and then you go to his concert. Like, we're trying to think too much about this, I think, because we're not doing anything. So I think we're thinking too much about it. We're doing something wrong. But right, the next generation is short videos. The next generation isn't. I guess it's possible that they're playing video games, but it's whatever's next. Video games were definitely a generation, but the Zers, the generation Z or whatever, and then there's a generation Alpha beyond that, I think is what they're calling it. So the stuff's not slowing down. We're having these conversations, not in slow motion, but over and over. And while we're having these conversations over and over, the next generation moved on from, they think Facebook is what we think of newspapers.
So what's
right. And I'm probably,
which generational name is cooler? Generation Gen X or Generation Alpha?
X. All day long. X.
I thought, aren't we Gen X?
Yeah.
Yes, we are.
I always hated it. I thought it was stupid as hell from the beginning.
I think it's cool though. I mean,
because X-Men from what's his face, like in spandex.
Well, to me, the X is like, X is a question mark, essentially. Generation what kind of thing. And X marks the spot and all kinds of other great things. It makes a lot of like great graphic ideas in my head. But just to touch for a quick moment and step away from the video game example, maybe, and back to gRPC, and that is, you are not going to draw youth with a bunch of tables with books on them. How much more antithetical could you be? Really?
Oh, but wait a
Who's
minute.
going to come in for that?
No, I thought you were 100% dead on. And you're not going to, if you're selling books, what are you going to give away? Oh, the books you're selling.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right.
There we go. So G23 brought up the ruling in California, the magazine capacity, where that ruling just came down that overturned the capacity ban. And here G23 was asking about its effect on Washington. I don't know if it really have an effect on Washington. It does set precedents, so other courts might look at it. But since it was within California, right now it really only affects California. But congratulations to California.
Yeah, that is a really attractive thing right there. So many hopes could be pinned on that being a precedent that's set in that particular state that ends up being a tide turner for the other ones. Definitely something to watch.
So hopefully, the roster comes down next.
What happened in Oregon? Are we allowed to say Oregon? Or should we say Oregon so it doesn't sound so much like gun?
I don't know. They pronounce it Oregon. It's not. They don't stress the gun, but Oregon.
I feel like they say it like sour gum, except they don't say the sour part. They just go Oregon.
Yeah, they
and
say
if a
Oregon,
bunch of them get together,
but they call themselves Oregonians.
that's where I was going. Yep. Put some of them together and it changes.
The old Oregonian. Oh dang, I can't think of the word. Okay, I can't think of the word. Origamiists. There we go.
Origamiist.
That's kind of like the Philippines. Philippines is spelled with a P. Filipinos are spelled with an F.
F. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I never thought of that. So the Oregonians, origamiist octogenarians. It's kind of like the Ninja Turtles, except they're old paper folding dudes. Owl. Make them owls. There you go. Now they're all O's. But anyway, what happened in Oregon? Do you know? I haven't been catching.
They had their hearings for 114, which I actually didn't watch any of it, so I haven't paid attention.
I've seen it. What was I doing? I was doing something at the time. I was either driving or doing something as he was streaming it. But I don't know if there was a conclusion or if it was just, is it still in the process?
I don't know. That's G23 should be able to answer it. He streamed I think the whole thing.
This last couple of days or last week or so, G23 was streaming, C&T was streaming, 2 other channels that are not coming to mind were streaming hearings. Somebody was doing Illinois stuff as well. The season is active right now. There's lots of stuff going on, and it's hard to keep track of. And since G23 is out there, personal shout, man, thanks for doing that for real.
Yeah, good. I didn't know about that. That's good to hear. That's awesome. That's something that seems insignificant and like there's no precedence for it. And while we are sitting there 10 hours into Clover Tack, watching the testimonials for Texas concealed carry. Does anybody remember what year that was? Like 17 or something. We're all sitting there 10 hours in, just BSing like we're doing here, except in a 10-hour chat. And we find out somewhere along there, I don't remember what point in it, but it kept us all rejuvenated because we found out that the people that were there in Texas who showed up at their state capitol and waited in line from like 8 in the morning to whatever 10 hours later is, some of them were monitoring Clover's live chat to see the testimonials happen. And while they were watching, they were able to edit what they were going to say, because if someone had already said it, they didn't need to reiterate, right? Or whatever. So repeat it. So they would, they literally were able to add more. And in stark contrast, I guess, the antis, literally every single one of them said 81% of Texans hate guns, 81% of Texans hate guns, or whatever the hell they were saying. But 81% of Texans, literally every one of them, like a parrot, said that, to the point where it was like a joke, right? Like it was hilarious. So anyway, that was an indication of, Clover doing it, not because it's ever been done before. I mean, a lot of us had streamed testimonies before, mainly so it was an excuse. It was just an excuse to have a room open half the time back in the day. Clover did it because he wanted to document the Texas concealed carry thing, because he was worried nobody else was like doing that other than the stream from the public access CNN or whatever, not CNN, CSCB, what was that called?
C-SPAN.
C-SPAN, thanks.
C-SPAN.
So, who knows if they record, they stream, but he wanted to have another permanent record of it. And then it turned out to be super useful. And since then, I can't say that anyone's mimicked that or copied that, but I think that's an indication of, things that can happen using technology and people valuing, their effort and their contribution to it. And it doesn't, you don't always have the person who comes back and says, hey, I was in there and I was there for 6 hours and we were watching your thing, and, get the feedback to find out about it. But that could easily be happening. And if it isn't happening already, you could create that to happen, right? So I think that's epic that people are out there doing that. They probably don't even know about Clover doing that. They're just doing it because they thought it was a good idea. Because it's certainly not.
No doubt. And
they're doing it in spite of
that's an example of how things you can do. Things happen on the fly and at the speed of light. Like I didn't understand that detail, that there were people who were revising their testimonies, based on what they were able to observe at that point. Yeah, there are just so many avenues to keep yourself informed and active. Rock on, rock on.
And to address Wesley Foster, it wasn't the 9th district ruling. It is federal court for the Southern California, I believe. So it does pretty much only affect California right now.
All right. And on that note, I'm going to jump out. I'll see you guys later.
Well, thanks for jumping in. And before you leave, hang on. Wait. Hold
on. Wait.
Oh, shit.
Wait for this part. Wait right here for this.
Right there.
GunTube.org is a video hosting website with a streaming feature. Created by Night Strike One, a man with a dream to protect the rights to share gun-related content, GunTube.org is free to use.
Everyone, GunTube, you should go check it out.
If you are frustrated by the limitations imposed by other video sharing sites, check out GunTube.org.
Go ahead, go over to the GunTube. Shut up, you infringe!
All right, now you may leave.
I'm going to need that in 720p.
I sent it to you, didn't I?
Yeah, but you gave me like the 480p version.
Really?
480 or 360. Yeah.
I didn't get 720 or 1080. Come on, I need high definition.
I'll see.
Man, don't you know what you look like?
I'll see what I have.
Yes,
yeah.
and I funny you mentioned that. I know what you look like, and you don't look any better than I do.
I didn't say that to be deprecating, man.
If I still have the working file, then I can give you a higher resolution.
Even if you don't worry about it. I'm just.
But anyways, thanks for jumping in, Night Strike.
Yep.
It's always a pleasure to see
Go
you.
easy.
See you later, guys.
Rock.
Well, since we're playing stuff, let me play this stuff. Gearwebsites.com for all your 2A related t-shirts, patches, stickers, posters, books, web design, web consulting, technology consulting, you name it, he'll consult it. Gearwebsites.com. Anything you want to plug, G-Webs?
Oh, thanks for the chat, or thanks for the plug and the chat, and the comment period or whatever, that thing. Go ahead and let people know about it, because every time I post something to people, or a poll or something, the one that'll win is, I didn't even know there was such a thing. It's
DJ.
pretty boring. It's like voting. It's like kind of, you don't get
Yeah.
nothing for it. It's actually, you have to do stuff and not get anything in return other than that participation thing that we value.
Well, that's one of the really disappointing thing is you hear everybody complain about politics, but the 30% of the people vote. So, most people that are complaining don't even vote.
It's like watching sports. Like, the sports team did this and that. Like, well, you're sitting in the stands watching, so I guess you're allowed. Nothing wrong with having an opinion or whatever. But if you feel like you're removed from it, that's not the same as voting. Just like it's not the same on the internet, right? And it's not like the sports team or the TV show. Politics, you have a string, and if everybody pulled the string at the same time, the players move. Like the thing changes, the game changes. We're not, we're not disassociated from it.
Yeah, and speaking of sports ball, Washington State University beat the Oregon Beavers.
Go Huskies.
Oh, all right. Now, DJ, I want you to think about what you just did.
I said go Huskies.
Huskies are the University of Washington.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Though WSU is Washington State University, they are the Cougars.
My bad, man. I promise to go forth and sin no more, but the way I'm going to keep from sinning is just to STF you about that.
Well, that's all right.
My bad, man.
So, anything you want to plug?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Really quickly, because everybody out there and on here has heard me talk about Brooke Cheney's channel and that's the A Great Start Shooting School channel and the discussion about suicide prevention and mental health awareness. Sunday evenings now, the channel She Fires, and I'm going to drop the link out there in the chat. If you're not subscribed, grab a sub over there. She's going to be having a live conversation on Sundays like this. I'm not quite sure about the time and don't want to misinform everybody, so grab a subscription, check out that chat tomorrow. I also hear Grapevine Styley that Guns and Barbecue will be on Tuesday evening. Stop by and check out stuff on his channel. I always have a good time over here. Thanks for the invitation, Foss. Everybody be safe, have fun, carry your guns, and rock. I'm out.
So next weekend will be a mouse party. And
special edition poll at what day during the week?
Usually the polls will go out Tuesday. Sometime I think the poll for this week, maybe I have it scheduled, so it might go out Monday. I don't know. On the community tab. And yeah. So appreciate everybody that was out there in the chat, chatting her up. And if you were watching and didn't say anything, I appreciate you too. Don't be afraid to say hi. Let me know you were out there. And I always think I'm forgetting something. Well, in any case, if you watch this in replay, again, leave a comment. I always read the comments, and I always appreciate them. On that note, I hope everybody has a good rest of the night, and go do something good.
You still here? It's over. Go home.